I just want to start with the past year, what it's been like for you, not just surviving the pandemic yourself, but you support millions of Americans and you've helped them get through the pandemic too. What has it been like?
Well, first of all, I think we've used the term we're all in this together. We really were all in this together. I've covered a lot of huge stories that have, involved danger and stuff, but they weren't in my neighborhood. They weren't people necessarily that I knew. And so you're kind of covering it from, a distance. This is affecting all of us. I made the choice very early on to begin working from home. I'm over 60 years old. We didn't know exactly what we were dealing with. NBC did a great job of outfitting all of us with home studios. So I was able to continue to do my work from home, but people that know me know I like to travel, I like to get on the road, and so I was kind of really chomping at the bit. So once I got the vaccinations, I'm back in the studio full time, and more important, back on the road.
So many people struggled through the pandemic. Did you feel the pressure of lifting them up and helping them through?
I did. I think that, I know that people tune to a broadcast like ours to put things in perspective. By the time they sit down with us in the evening, they know the major headlines of the day. We're all got cell phones and Twitter and all that, but I think they come to a network broadcast really to help me put it in perspective. What does this mean? And that was kind of my mission every night was to really, here's what we know, here's what we don't know. This is the best science, and then I try to practice what we were reporting as best I could.
You have done across America since 2016. This time you're looking at how America is doing in the pandemic. As you've gone across the country, what have you found? How are we doing?
Yeah, we originally started this across America was more, the political climate, election years, but this was all about, the bouncing back. We're doing, what do I know, right? But from what I've seen, we're doing quite well. We're confronting a lot of things. In Louisville, we told it through the eyes of confronting, race and policing, which of course occurred, the Breonna Taylor case there, which occurred, at the depth of the pandemic. As cities were shutting down, they were dealing with that. We were in Cleveland yesterday where they've got some challenges getting kids back up to speed over the summer, the ground they may have lost through, at-home learning. So what I find is a nation that's eager to kind of be out there again. We're learning not to be afraid of each other because how long have we been, doing this and nervous because you got too close. And at the same time, and we try to acknowledge in our broadcast, this isn't over. There are still people getting sick every day. There are still people dying every day from this. But I think there's a sense of we can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
We're coming up on the one-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd. After the conviction of Derek Chauvin, you said on Nightly News, the case has forced us to look at those 9 minutes and 29 seconds as a reflection of where we are. What did you mean?
I think it's a sense of, we think that progress is this linear path that continues to climb and climb, but it doesn't always. And we thought we were in a better place, and I think that reminded us that there are still, forces at work that can erase some of the progress we've made, and I thought it was important. We point out that, you look at that, and that's not a reflection of the America that we perhaps thought we were at this stage in our history, and that's really what I was trying to convey.
That's almost verbatim what my son said to me. It's not the America I thought we were living in.
Yeah. But I think there's an ideal. I think we do have an ideal as a country, and I think that's what keeps us hopeful. That we still have a compass that ultimately points north. Sometimes it wavers one way or the other, but I think I'm an internal optimist. I think that we can be better, and we will be better. But it is an uneven path.
A lot of people in the last year realized for the first time that Black and brown families have a different kind of conversation with their children about how to interact with police. And I was curious if you had those conversations with your boys and if you think they will or should have them with your grandsons.
Yeah, I can't recall ever having let's sit down and talk about getting stopped by police. I think it was part of broader conversation. We were always making sure that our kids knew what was going on in the news, that I explained things that they saw, Dad reporting on. We always wanted to engage them in social issues or politics or whatever it might be. So in that context, we had those conversations. I think that the bigger conversation, that I had with my kids growing up, they're now in their 30s, is about respect. And I think that covers such a huge part of our lives and makes our lives easier if we can all engage in respecting each other. It seems trite, but it's really You know, what I try to do every night in that broadcast is respect the viewer, put them first. You know, we're not broadcasting to each other or trying to impress each other. We're really, you know, our viewers are at the center, and I always want to make sure that we're respecting our viewers.
You have the attention and the respect of millions of Americans, and with your voice in the chair in which you sit, you can make any issue a national issue. What do you think we should as a nation be focusing on most right now?
I think we're trying to focus on unity, but we're having a really hard time. You know, we've been through a period the last many years where everything eventually gets shifted under the you know, the light of politics. And we're having a hard time breaking out of that to understand that we can have differences. They don't always have to be, you know, painted in political colors. And, you know, we're having a hard time finding this common ground to really have this conversation. Right now we're still in that early part. Let's have unity, but it takes hard work. And I think it's the thing that's ultimately going to hold us back if we can't figure out a way to talk about, you know, what's really happening and how we got there and how we get through it.
And finally, a few years back, journalists were deemed the enemy of the state. And in the last few years, it's been a challenge for Americans to agree on what is truth. We at King 5 stand for truth. At NBC News, you stand for truth. It's what we do. It's why we've gotten to this business. What is it going to take to get Americans collectively on the same page to agree on what is the truth again?
It is the question of our time. Every day, you know, we go on the air and we fact check and we work the scripts and we make sure that we're framing things the proper way. We put a lot of attention, time and attention to it, and to know that there are people watching who think some of the things we report simply aren't true. It saddens me. You know, we do the best we can, but we just have to stand on the fact that over time, you know, integrity and standing on principles means something. I like to think, though, that most people that come to watch us do understand. You know, NBC Nightly News, the brand has been around for something over 75 years. You don't erase that, you know, that integrity and the years of building trust overnight with a tweet or an insult. But the only thing we can do is let our work stand for who we are.
And finally, congratulations. A new grandchild's coming your way.
On the way, little popcorn. I say little popcorn because you may or may not have seen a certain Instagram post out there
adorable.
Of my son with my oldest grandson, who's, you know, showing off the ultrasound photos, and he announces that the baby is going to be called Popcorn. I don't know what the baby's going to be called, but I know that this granddad will forever refer to that child as Popcorn, and I'm going to be his, wait for it, Grandpop.
Grandpop for Popcorn. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thanks for being in Seattle. We're so happy to have you.
Oh my God, I love being here. Thank you.
All right.